Iowa Hoops survives over the weekend against Penn State. Is it enough to realistically talk about this team in the tournament? Big win for the wrestling team on the map. Plus, we talk with Scott Doctorman, a busy Locked On Hawkeyes.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you find podcasts. You can also watch us on YouTube. While you're there, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. We get started today with some basketball talk. We're going to talk a little Iowa wrestling, not only the win against Ohio State over the weekend, Gabe Arnold adding a little bit of fuel to the fire as Penn State will be the matchup coming in this week. We got a lot of coverage coming up for you this week. Zach Sako from Locked On Nittany Lions is going to be joining us. We will preview that matchup a little bit later on in the week and what should be a real fun one. And has that gap closed at all? We'll talk about that a little bit more coming up later on in the week. But we got some wrestling coming your way. Of course, lots of basketball. Plus, Scott Doctorman from The Athletic is going to join us. So here we sit today. And as I'm with you talking about this football team, talking about this basketball team, talking about the wrestling team, baseball, softball, gymnastics, soccer, doesn't matter. Whatever we're getting into to Hawkeyes, there's always an end game, right? There's always something that is a realistic expectation for each and every team. And coming into the season, I believe that the Iowa men's basketball team was going to be an NCAA tournament team, that I thought enough of what they brought in, of the talent that they had accumulated, of the new additions. I thought Thelwell was going to be good, and he has. I thought Seydou Traore was going to be an impact player, and he has at times, just not as consistently. And injuries may be a part to do with that. But I also forgot about some things, right? And watching the way it plays out on Friday night against Penn State. Iowa controls this game. Iowa's running away. Iowa's going to put it away and should easily win. And they got the win, 76-75. And that's all that matters, right? They got the victory. Don't complain, Condon. They got the win. We hear enough negativity. We hear enough of the bad side of things. Let's just celebrate a victory. And most times I am with you. But it didn't feel like a win. 1-7 at the free throw line down the stretch. Missed front ends. And then the defensive sequence in the final moments of the game, leading to Penn State getting look after look after look to win the game. Now, they missed them all. So you do get the win, 76-75. If they would have lost that one, if they would have lost to a very middling Penn State team at home after losing to a middling Minnesota team, and yes, I understand, the Gophers beat Oregon. It was a nice win, and Minnesota's playing better. Still, you're going to be an NCAA tournament team. You can't afford losses like that. And if you do have a loss like that, it means you got a lot more work to do. And not just picking up a win, maybe multiple wins. But that aside, it was a win that didn't feel like a win. It was a win that just left you remembering why we get so frustrated, why the frustrating parts about this team and this program just continue time in and time out, the way it plays there. But let's take away the final moments. And look at what this squad did, really slowing down Ace Baldwin. I think you start right there and making it very difficult on Ace Baldwin to get much of anything. He's 2 of 8 from the floor, does have 7 assists in the game, also turned it over, though, 3 times for the fine point guard for Penn State. And credit the defensive Thelwell and what he was able to do. I don't think there's any doubt. He was the MVP of this game, Drew Thelwell, of what he did, not just offensively, knocking down 3 3-pointers, finishing the game with 16 points, time for the team lead with Owen Freeman, but it was also what he did on the other end of the floor and just how good he was there. He did in a game where Brock Harding, again, the turnovers were piling up. 3 assists, 4 turnovers. That's not good enough because of the inefficiencies at time of Brock Harding and the struggles that he has on the defensive end of the floor. When you have games like that, it's not good enough. Brock Harding has to be better. He's got to be tighter with the handle. He has to be able to do those things. We continue to see Seydou Traore play at a high level. Another guy that we have to mention in this one is the play of Riley Mulvey. It was just 5 minutes in the game. I've been talking about this for a while, and it goes back to the beginning of the season. Why we didn't see Riley Mulvey playing over Evan Bronze, I will never understand. Look, Riley Mulvey, he's kind of goofy, right? You look at him, he's gangly out there. He's a kid that works his butt off, though. And you can tell that. He puts in the work. And when he goes in there, yes, there are going to be certain guys that just physically dominate him. There are going to be certain matchups that aren't the best for him. However, on the defensive end of the floor, he knows what he's doing. He knows what to do. He knows how to actually hedge correctly and when to drop when a screen and roll comes. He is at minimum a decent rebounder, a pretty good defender. Is he great offensively? No, but that's okay. I get it. Iowa basketball is built on the offense, and that's how Fran McCaffrey has built this team and is going to build it going forward. I get all that. However, Riley Mulvey has a place in the rotation. When you're going up against bigs, and when you're going up against a 7-footer like Iowa was, Riley Mulvey can give you good minutes. And I think that he did. One guy that was knocking down some three-pointers, but still just, if he's not hitting the threes, is Price Sanford. And Price has had some good games this year, but there are times you wonder, he played 20 minutes. Prairie played 13. Is it time to flip-flop that? Is it time to switch that over? I think so. I think we're there. If you're really tightening up that rotation, I think that's something that needs to happen. One other guy we also have to mention, Josh Dix, who had just another one of those floor games. Didn't shoot it great from the outside, just 1 of 5. Finishes with 11 points. As we talk about a ton, you want him to be more aggressive. However, 8 assists against 1 turnover. Also had a block and a steal. Iowa gets the win. Look, there's a ton more to do. And I believe that Iowa probably has to win tonight against Ohio State. When you look at this matchup against Ohio State, Iowa at FanDuel right now is a 7.5-point underdog. Yes, it's a road trip. And until Iowa can prove they can do anything on the road, it's hard to believe it will. Short of the Michigan game, and remember, they got down big early in that game before battling back. This team has been putrid on the road. Drilled by Wisconsin, just absolutely embarrassed. Run off the floor at USC and UCLA. This team has been awful on the road. And until that, you can't believe they're going to do it. Let's hope that they do. Now, this Ohio State team themselves, they've run into their own set of issues. They got the win last time out against Purdue. But before that, had lost 4 out of 5. The only win came in overtime against Minnesota. Lost to Michigan State, Oregon, Wisconsin, Indiana, all solid, talented teams. Ohio State's probably looking at this much like Iowa. They have to win this game. Now, the metrics like the Buckeyes much more than they like Iowa. You look at their net, you look at quad 1 victories, you look at the way that their resume is built, much better than Iowa. This team with a lot of new faces, a lot of guys that weren't there the last couple of years. One guy you will remember, Bruce Thornton, who was a cog in the side against Iowa. Was that a year ago where he had the big performance against the Hawks? I think it was. Yeah, I'm looking back here at there it is. He had 14 points, went 3 of 5 from 3 in that game. Wasn't shooting it very well coming in. Of course, went off against Iowa. Also had 9 assists in that game and 6 rebounds. So he's a guy that you'll remember, Bruce Thornton, in his 3rd year with the Buckeyes. But Diebler got the job. It was a surprise that he got it, but he is there, and they're fighting for their NCAA tournament lives. This is not going to be a team that's going to be overlooking Iowa. They know the importance of this one. They're built in a way, pretty good defensive team, top 30 team nationally in defensive efficiency. And one thing that they do really well on the defensive end is they run you off the 3-point line. This is going to have to be a game where Iowa cannot just hope that you're knocking down 3-pointers. They're going to chase you off the 3-point line. Going to have to do it. That means Freeman inside, getting him going a little bit, doing it that direction, because this is not a big Ohio State team. It's one of the few games where Iowa maybe has a chance on the boards. And if they can do that, maybe they can pull off the victory. These are the games Iowa needs. And yeah, it's probably not realistic, but you have to get wins like this. After that, it's Purdue and Wisconsin coming up. They'll have a week break before the Boilermakers come in next Tuesday, and then the return matchup against Wisconsin, this time at Carver. I still believe that Iowa has so much work to be done. These next 3 games, they got to go 2-1 at minimum. At minimum, to even us start considering this to be an NCAA tournament team. You end the losing streak, great. That's about it. Still more that needs to be done. Let's talk to Scott Doctorman from The Athletic. Get Doc's thoughts on Iowa basketball. Also talk a little Caitlin Clark and Cooper DeJean in year number 1 in the NFL. He is off to the Super Bowl. He still hasn't even turned 22 years old. Absolutely crazy what we're seeing from Cooper DeJean and just a great rookie campaign. We'll talk with Scott Doctorman, some Hawkeye talk with Doc coming up next. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes are waiting and wondering and worrying if you are going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you everything, every deduction possible, and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so you can get the most money back, guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Doc, want to talk some Hawkeye hoops with you. I know you're not on the Iowa basketball beat anymore, and you keep an eye on things, though, certainly. Living in the community, watching the games, going every once in a while over there to Carver. You've been there for the good and the bad, and the way this thing is cratered, the attendance is cratered at a level we haven't seen anything like this game after game after game. You got Minnesota in town, and you're lucky to get actual 4,000 or 5,000 people actually in the building for it. It's just difficult. Give us the temperature over there as you see it. Is it just as simple as the fan base is just completely checked out of the Fran McCaffrey era?
Yeah, it is. And that's a shame, and it's sad. It's the apathy is at a level I've never experienced before. And that includes, everybody wants to compare, is this like the end of the Licklider era? In some ways it is, but I think there was more passion there. There's probably a little more anger, that I can't believe this is happening. Fairweather fan decided, hey, they're not good enough, I'm not going to go. But this team actually is competitive. It is a good team. It's not a great team. It's a team that's capable of getting to the NCAA tournament or the bubble at least, and then NIT. So it's way better competitively than what was at the end of the Licklider era. But I think that, once you push the rock up that mountain so many times, people start going, you know what, I'm done here. And what you're looking at with Iowa's men is that they're first in the Big Ten by a mile when it comes to scoring offense, but they're way in the gutter in last again in scoring defense. Mm-hmm. And they're worst in field goal percentage on defense. They're first on offense. They're last in rebounding margin. So you're saying that you can't defend and you can't rebound in the critical situations, which means you lose close games and important games. That's what everybody's seen for years. That's what they're seeing right now. So I don't know that there's anything that can be done. They could win a couple of games and it might encourage a few hundred, maybe a few thousand people to come to these games, but I don't think you're going to encourage people to go to sellouts anymore. And when you get to this point, as a business decision, because let's face it, major college athletics is a business. You've got to make a decision. Is this fine? Being competitive on the floor, or do you need to be competitive in the arena? And I would say in the arena is where they have so many problems that it's cultural now, and you've got to make a decision on how you want to change your culture. And usually that means change in leadership.
Well, the only problem in the building Sunday is trying to find a ticket for the Caitlin Clark jersey retirement. Just real quick on that. Are you going over to cover it, Doc? And how big an event is this, do you think? Obviously, generational talent. Never seen anything like her. She's, as she has mentioned on previous interviews, that's going to be different for her because usually when she's been honored, she's been coming off playing 39 or 40 minutes, and it's a little bit different. How do you think she handles it? Are you going to go and see it in person, cover it for The Athletic?
Yeah, I'm going to cover it for The Athletic, and we'll have a story kind of from Chantel Jennings, our national writer, about Iowa women's basketball that morning too. And as far as atmosphere, it'll be, similar to what we saw on Senior Day last year, or maybe some of the other great games we've seen in recent memory. As far as Caitlin goes, I imagine that now she's removed from it. She's not competing, to see all these people, and then she can kind of embrace it too. I mean, it was always in the moment, last year Michigan or what have her. Now she is removed. She's a spectator, and to be around it and have all this acclaim and the stories. I know Iowa women's athletics has sought people to tell me your Caitlin Clark story, and some of them are just remarkable. And some that I've experienced. I talked to a woman whose daughter had cancer, and and she had tickets to a game. That was going to be her Christmas present, but then she couldn't go because of cancer. Well, Caitlin and they managed to get her tickets. And then not only after that, she went over as soon as the game was over and signed her shoes and gave it to the little girl, and the mom's in tears. And there's so many stories like that, not just cancer patients, but little girls, teenage girls, older women, men taking their boys wearing 22 jerseys and sweatshirts, which has never happened in the history of the world.
No. Hall of Fame baseball players.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Out of nowhere.
Tim McGraw, just on and on. And it's remarkable. It's a game changer. She's the most impactful athlete we've seen of this generation across the board. And so it'll be a spectacle. It'll be something to behold. And, I guess my hope for Iowa, considering who they're playing that day, and USC and Juju Watkins, is that Iowa makes it a very competitive game. You would hope that they would win. I mean, that would be the cherry on top, but I don't think you expect that. That's a really good team. I think what you hope for is they put out an effort and a performance that's befitting of the person that they're honoring that day.
So who's closer to an NCAA tournament team, or who's more likely to make it, the women or the men?
Good question.
Oof.
A couple of weeks ago, frankly, before they went to the West Coast, I would have said the men.
Yep.
Because I thought they might have split on the West Coast. They would have beaten Minnesota,
Right.
and they would have sat there, at 4-6-3 in the Big Ten now, and said they're 4-5. This team's capable of going about 9-11 and probably missing it because of their non-conference schedule. They just didn't play enough people there. I think the women, because they're still high in the net, they're still in the 30s. And, they've got at least 3 more wins on their schedule. This is the deepest, best league in the country. That if they could steal a game or two and maybe win in the Big Ten tournament, I think they'll get in. They'll be kind of a lower seed, but I think the women are probably in a better situation, as we say today. But again, a couple weeks ago, before that Indiana game, I thought, this team's dead. They beat Indiana by a lot, men do, and then go on the West Coast and lay an egg. And it's just back and forth. Both teams are 13-7, so it's probably fitting that we're having this discussion.
Last thing for me, Doc, 13 days, small town Iowa kids going to play in the Super Bowl. When you think back to Cooper DeJean, and you were still covering the Hawks for the Athletic on a weekly basis back then, not that you're overlooking them now, you're in the building, but you've gone more national. When did you, or was there a point when you thought he did something on the field, you thought, oh my God, Iowa might have something here. I'm going to pay attention to this DeJean kid. He looks like he might be pretty good. Did you have any of those moments when you think back on his career covering him?
Yeah. His high school career should not be overlooked. It was one of the most incredible in Iowa history, football and basketball. I mean, he had more points than Harrison Barnes. He was an incredible basketball player. But I think on the football field, a couple of things that stood out for me was, one, they threw him in there against, it was in the 21 season when they were undefeated, and then they lost 2 straight when they were at Wisconsin. He's out there returning kicks. I thought, okay, as a true freshman, this is a big deal. His play in the bowl game, that Citrus Bowl against Kentucky, where he runs across the field and tracks down Wan'Dale Robinson, and they ended up scoring and winning. Kentucky did. But the effort that he put in and the athletic ability to track down a really good receiver all the way across the field made me go, and he was, in a pinch. I thought, okay, this is a guy that's got something. And then, of course, what he was able, I think the Rutgers play with the pick 6 really just showed you, okay, this guy's special. And to see what he was able to do his last year, the Minnesota non-return, he's special. He's out of this world. I mean, when I think of Cooper DeJean at Iowa, the names that come up that I got to no, he can't go that far, but it's Tim Dwight and Niall Kinnick.
Jeez, pretty short list.
But it's a short list. He's that remarkable. And And I think, yeah, who knows? I think he might do something special in the Super Bowl.
We shall see. Scott Doctorman from The Athletic. Doc, so what can we look forward to as subscribers, which Trent and I both are, of the great site, The Athletic?
Yeah, thanks. Me and a colleague of mine, Antonio Morales, are going over the Big Ten right now and looking at everything on the portals, who's rising, who's falling, who's neutral. And then also did a mock draft, the first of many this spring that I'll do, and did one with Nick Baumgartner that one will come out tomorrow. So got 2 Hawkeyes in our 2-round mock and 1 Cyclone. So it's first of many. Of course, people will complain about it, but in 3 months the real thing comes out.
Selfishly, Warren, the Penn State tight end, does he get past Indianapolis, and is Loveland still there at 20, the Michigan tight end?
I have him going to Warren going to Indianapolis.
Yeah, 14, yeah.
And I have the Chargers taking Loveland.
So he would be there at 20 then, if that's the way I think Denver needs him.
Denver. I have them taking Ibuka.
All right. Yeah, that would work too, because they certainly need some help at wide receiver. Unbelievable. Yeah. Doc, great stuff as always. Thank you, Scott Doctorman from The Athletic. We'll speak with you in a week. Thanks, Doc.
Thanks so much. Have a good day.
Yeah, good to talk to you. Scott Doctorman, as we check in on Hawkeyes and Big Ten and stuff, and it sounds like he's going to be doing a lot more draft.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 59. Trent Condon back with you one final time. Locked On Hawkeyes. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. So as we wrap things up, we talked about Ohio State on the hardwood coming up this evening. We'll be back with you with the Rapid Reaction podcast after that one goes final tonight. But let's get into Ohio State on the wrestling mat and to look forward to Friday. So we are taking a look at matching up with Penn State on Friday. Should be a fun matchup. Penn State, the gap is still significant, but going back in what we saw against Ohio State. Now, I was surprised. After Drake Ayala was scratched from the lineup, dealing with the injury that he is, the point spread plummeted, which was really shocking to me. I was surprised to see that happen. In fact, it went down to, I think it was down to 4 at circa, at least about 45 minutes before the match started up on Saturday afternoon. So we see what happened at 133. And that Ben Davino for Ohio State, kid's a stud, just a true freshman, and has wrestled, I believe that was his 5th varsity match. So now they have a decision to make there. But that dude, he's going to score points come March. Definitely has that opportunity. He is good if they decide to go that direction and take the red shirt off of him. But 125, Joey Cruz started off. That was a really necessary win for Iowa to get off to the start that they did, knowing the whole 33 that they had, what they were going up against 41. And 41 continues to be a sore spot. Ryder Block just couldn't get anything going against Mendez. And that's going to happen to a lot of people. But I know there's some frustration kind of building there. But then bouncing back, getting Teamer back out there, that was absolutely outstanding. He looked good doing it against a pretty decent opponent in Sammy Sasso for Ohio State. That was a nice victory from him, showing that speed, athleticism, and coming back after the hamstring injury. Great to see him back out on the mat. And then some of the other things, Caliendo, what he was able to do against Gallagher, a pretty good wrestler in his own right, and get the major decision there. That was great to see. And then it all culminated, I thought, at the end with Ben Keeter against Nick Feldman, holding him off. You could see just the elation out of Keeter in that match and how happy he was to get that one. That was a big victory for him. And, you look at the way that he's built, certain matchup that he's going to go with, some of those bigger type of heavyweights and how he's going to have to battle. Look, I don't think this team still has enough to take down Penn State, obviously a big part of it is Drake Ayala coming back, and potentially you got to have these guys win. Now you're going to need 3 national championships, maybe 4 national championships, coupled with a bunch of guys wrestling over where they're going to be. And you're going to need Gabe Arnold to make a strong push. Now, he's already calling out Mr. Ochi. Something I wouldn't do, but look at me. I'm not a wrestler, right? We'll talk about that again more in the week. But fun match at Carver on Saturday. Big weekend in front of us, and Friday night against Penn State. Again, a lot more on that one. Iowa Ohio State on the hardwood tonight. Women's basketball team was off this weekend. They'll get Northwestern, their next matchup on Tuesday. So we got a lot going on. Really busy time. We'll start talking a little more bracketology, getting into a bunch of everything. But we got you covered each and every day. That's what we do here on Locked On Hawkeyes, talking Hawkeyes with you each and every day. Plus your favorite team out there. Doesn't matter if it's the NFL. Chiefs fans, congratulations. Eagles fans, congratulations to you. Your favorite NFL team. NBA, MLB, NHL. We got you covered. Plus, Locked On Big Ten, Locked On Fantasy Football, Locked On Bets. You name it, we got it here on the Locked On Network with you each and every day. We'll be back with you late tonight after Iowa hopefully gets that win against the Buckeyes and gives us a little bit of hope going into a big week back at Carver-Hawkeye Arena. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Go Hawks.